Hi, in this lesson, we'll take a look at some more specific things you can do in the classroom to encourage your students to problem solve for themselves. One good way to communicate expectations and directions when it comes to debugging is through a checklist. This can be something that hangs on the wall at the front of the room or is printed out and kept in student notebooks for reference. This can include any steps that students can and should take before the final option of asking you as the teacher. If you give students actionable steps they can take before coming to you, you should see the number of raised hands go down and the amount of problem solving and critical thinking go way up. When many of us come to an issue or a question in our daily lives, whether it's the address of a restaurant or how to fix a broken bike gear, we very often turn to Google or another search engine to find an answer. It is a skill to know what to search for, and one that is more than worthwhile to teach our students. As they begin writing more complex programs with less than straightforward answers, online forums are usually the place to turn, but they are not useful if students don't know what to search for or what they are expecting to find. Modeling this type of search based on a common problem, such as an unexpected error message that is hard to decode, is extremely helpful as students navigate into the world of physical computing, and one that will pay off in full when students begin building their own projects. As they will all be working on something different, it would be extremely time-consuming for you to have to find the answer to each question that arises. Taking the time to develop these searching strategies early on in the course means that when more complex and differing problems come up, your students are equipped with the skills to find their own answers. To make the most of the materials in your classroom, be sure to explicitly teach responsibility when it comes to their handling and organization. The easiest way to avoid bugs arising from the use of broken components is to avoid breaking them. Many of the materials used throughout this course are fragile, so students should always keep them organized in their designated location and be taught to use them carefully. If you have enough supplies to allow groups of students to be in charge of their own kit of materials, this can be a good way to keep track of which students may be responsible for their misuse or which components need to be restocked. As students begin building larger, more complex projects, they may need to prototype a design. Having waste materials available in the classroom can be extremely helpful for this reason. At the beginning of your course, it is a good idea to reach out to parents to see if they are able to collect materials around the house, such as cardboard rolls, plastic bottles and tops, and corks, and bring them to school for use in your classroom. Students can use these items to prototype their design and test its functionality. Also, students will have learned to use sensors and motors in testing environments, but will need to learn how they work when they become part of a larger machine. For example, we can set a program to turn a servo motor to a specific location. But if we actually want that servo motor to control something, such as opening and closing a flap, we will need to attach a flap to the motor and then perform testing to determine the ideal angles to set the flap to be opened and closed. This will be new to students, so be sure to include ample time in your lessons to allow for this type of trial and error. Though it may require quite a bit of work up front to teach students debugging skills and methods, it will more than pay off once students can answer their own questions. When you see the jumps of joy in your classroom when a student has figured out the fix to a problem that has been stumping them, you'll know for sure that your time was well spent. Now, let's wrap up all we've learned about debugging with some exercises. Let's go.